Want to build a snowman?
Yes, but I can't.
Oh boy, I'm back in business.
Many months later.
Oh boy, am I late with this video, and yet this is one of those rare times where you feel happy to be the late one to the party for whatever reason, but in this case, I am glad that although I wanted to get my retrospective for 2024 out just as the old year died, having a look back at my previous claims that Glitch had pounded Disney into the sand. Well, I was late because there was a whole lot of stuff that was suddenly happening, all these crazy numbers, trying to figure it out, and then learning from other excellent YouTubers about stuff that I had not taken into consideration. So here I am, Lars from Camille's Harem, a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, back once again to talk about Glitch versus Disney. And yet this time to expand the horizons, to expand the view, to look at the far bigger picture that 2024 presented to us and see how animation has changed, how animated storytelling has changed, and how indie animation is on the rise, but not yet in the golden age that some people might think. Oh no, we're a far ways from it. But things are actively changing on the scene across the entire industry, and not just in Disney and not just with Glitch, that could yield massive and unexpected results. And of course, we want to know where our place is in this, as creators, as storytellers, as people who are trying to break into the industry, wherever it be. We want to know, well, where do we fit in all of this? It's great looking at all these big companies and big individuals and seeing what they're doing, but honestly, where do I stand in all of this? So that's what I hope to cover in this video. And right off the bat, one of the things that I need to address is this. Although I'm going to be having a look at views and at money and at budgets and all of this good jazz, the fact of the matter is that money doesn't quite capture the reality of what goes on with storytelling and how audiences receive it. And this is something that's bugged me ever since I did my original video on the fact that Disney absolutely lost to Glitch. I'm sorry for all the people who say that that's not the case, but they absolutely did, and I'll be showing the numbers here on the screen to prove it as I am blathering away. But here's the problem with just focusing simply on views and on money. You see, Disney gets so many views for everything that they do. They honestly do. And they are wielding hundreds of millions of dollars. And as we will see in this previous year, in the year of 2024, they did amazingly well. And yet it seems as though Disney's reputation is in the absolute gutter. And people aren't expecting great stories from them anymore. And there's no longer this push from young, wide-eyed animators and storytellers to rush off to the House of Mouse. No, in fact, in conversations I've had with a lot of novice creators and young and upcoming artists, they're like, I don't want to touch Disney with a 7.5-foot pole, not at all, because they're toxic, they're awful. And yet they're making so much money, especially again in this past year. So this leads me then to reevaluate. Money and views are definitely one thing. This helps to show popularity to a certain extent. On top of that, it shows financial success. And financial success is important for anyone who wishes to make storytelling a career, whether they be an individual, a small indie company, or a massive conglomerate. They need to be financially successful. But there's more to it than that. There is fan engagement. There is passing along these stories. There's fantastic fan art, the fan fictions that people come up with, the recommendations that people give, the time that schmoes like me here on YouTube decide to spend talking about your product, talking about your story. That is something that money and views alone cannot represent. So that's something to bear in mind. Yes, we will be looking at views. We will be looking at money because that is important. But there's so much more to it than just that. There is intent. There's a legacy. There's love. There's, again, that fan interaction. And there's whether or not your story will continue to be passed on to other people so that way it actually has life to it. So actually getting to it, knuckling down and getting into the dirty numbers and all of this, well, let's just come flat out. I've been showing you the numbers here on the screen as I've been pontificating, and as you will have noticed, Disney lost in 2023 a whopping $618.6 million at the box office with all of their major productions. Now, I do understand that Disney owns plenty of other studios and properties that allows them to make loads of more money to keep them afloat. The House of Mouse is not going anywhere anytime soon. It's not about to topple to the earth, never to rise again. Despite what so many people are saying, and even with current events such as they are, with the tragic wildfires in the LA area, and then people fearing that politics are going to reach their grumpy hands even more into the world of Tinseltown and tear it apart and initiate all of these new laws and everything else. Well, the fact of the matter is that the House of Mouse is still going to plug and chug along as they've always had, as well as most other studios. Political policies will change every 2 to 4 years, but Hollywood dances to its own beats. And so, again, despite the fact that Glitch absolutely stomped Disney in 2023 in terms of profitability and popularity, House of Mouse isn't going anywhere. And you know what? They came back strong in 2024. We have to be honest, they did. And this is something that kind of bugs me from other channels where they decide to go into the numbers and see what people are saying, and they like to focus primarily on the negative because the negative is fun, and the negative feeds into a narrative that they absolutely enjoy. But the fact of the matter is, Disney did well. So, Inside Out 2, on a budget of $200 million and a likely advertising budget of $100 million, for a grand total of $300 million at least that they put into making this movie, went up against a total of $1,699 million in ticket sales at the box office. The basic logic and math for ticket sales will indicate that you have to basically halve this, and that number once halved, that's the amount of money that actually then goes back to the studio. So that means that $849.5 million went back to Disney against their investment of $300 million for a total gain of $549.5 million. Congratulations, that's a lot of cash that I wish I had. You then have Deadpool and Wolverine, which on a budget of $200 million for production against a likely advertising budget of $100 million for a grand total of $300 million investment, went up against $1.338 billion in ticket sales at the box office. Again, have the $1 billion plus, and you get $669 million against their investment of $300 million for a total gain of profits of $369 million for the House of Mouse. Then Moana 2, against an estimated budget of $150 million, which should be taken with a pinch of salt or a pound of salt, depending on who you talk to, because this was a show that was then quickly translated into a movie at record speed. So $150 million is probably not what they spent on it, but in any case, we'll go with the posted $150 million against, again, a likely budget of $100 million in advertising, because they really pushed for it after they realized that the show, or the movie wasn't going to flop. You then get a $250 million investment against a current box office hold of $1 billion. Have that $1 billion to $500 million, and you then get against their investment a profit of $250 million. Mufasa is an interesting example, though, because live action meets animation, yada yada yada. In any case, it looks like they're about to break even. I'm going to right now post it as just a fat goose egg for Mufasa, because their production budget versus what they almost right now currently have at the box office just before the movie is about to leave the theater basically leads to zero. So, zero for Disney right there. But against everything else, it's great! Disney's looking really good with a $1,168,500,000 in profits at least. Woo! Good on you, Disney! And on top of that, they really did capture the magic again. They recaptured it with Inside Out 2. However, there is a whole conversation that needs to be had surrounding Moana 2 as a whole, rapidly sacrificing a TV show for a movie that could have been a lucrative TV show had it been done properly, or maybe they should have just decided on their own little cinematic universe for Moana. In any case, it might have helped to make the story a little bit more solid. But here's the truth of the matter. Disney's 2024 has filled the hole from 2023 and added over $550 million to their coffers so far. That is really good. Now, granted, we'll have to see how 2025 turns out, because with the current slate of movies that we see on the horizon and the speculation surrounding them, it's very likely that they're going to gobble up those gains, especially with the expected flops like Snow White and Captain America Brave New World. But for the time being, let's just celebrate what Mickey has done as of right now. Though, the moment that you begin to look a little bit deeper, things look less rosy for Disney when you start considering the sinking black hole of tens of billions of dollars and debt and canceled shows that make up the Disney Plus scheme. Oh, meine Güte. And not to mention everything that's been going on wrong with Star Wars recently. And let's not mention the plummeting rate of attendance at the Disney parks while prices are going up. And don't even get me started on the political controversies, the bad press, the internet beatdowns, and so much more. This has just further tarnished the House of Mouse's reputation. And like I said at the beginning, money says one thing. Disney made buckets loads of money. Holy cow, I wish I had $500 million in profits in the bank. But the fact of the matter is that it came at the cost of a lot of goodwill, a lot of scandals in the public light. Disney isn't doing all too well, and we're just going to have to see how this continues to play out over time, which is again why you can't just look at money as the only go-to. Yes, Disney was successful in 2024, but will people truly remember and love these movies and shows as much as they've loved other things? And with bearing that question in mind, let's have a look at some of the other animated features that came out. And I am going to combine into their CGI meeting live action, because there's an animated element to it, and usually these movies then get billed as a kind of animated feature. So starting off with one of the big ones at the beginning of the year, we had If, which was a box office flop with $190 million at the box office against a $110 million budget, without considering any advertising. That's already a $15 million loss. Yeesh. Despicable Me 4 was a box office success with $969 million against a budget of $100 million, and again, without considering advertising, you get $300 million in profits. Then The Wild Robot was a box office success with $324 million against a budget of $78 million, and again, without considering advertising, that's $84 million, and already just so many amazing reviews, glowing reviews. People want more. People are buying the books. People are buying what little merchandise there is. Wild Robot's doing really well. And then with Sonic 3 just now earning more than $400 million at the box office, they have managed to reach that beautiful point where they've broken even. Which some people would say, well, isn't that a little bit of a loss? But Sonic 3 still has legs to it. It's going to go on to different streaming services where they're going to get paid buco bucks, especially by a company like Netflix. And then on top of that, there is all the merchandising that comes with the Sonic franchise. So animation has been doing well, and that's good to see overall, but there are some bigger problems that have been happening and things that we've got to talk about. At the end of last year, Cartoon Network closed its creative office. Yes, Cartoon Network is still running. You'll still be able to watch all the shows that are connected to it, but there are going to be no new shows created by Cartoon Network except through little affiliates and little side companies. Let's not forget that Rooster Teeth got shut down and destroyed because, well, they spent themselves themselves into oblivion. And there is a whole conversation that needs to be had about Rooster Teeth, a prime example of when indie creators absolutely destroy themselves even when the deck is stacked in their favor. Yeesh. So that's all really bad. But then on top of that, Warner Brothers and Disney have decided, you know what, we're going to focus more on animated sequels and prequels and kiddie shows. And so there's not a bunch of new stuff being made for older kids, for teenagers, for adults. It's all just a continuation of the same stuff. All the new stuff is being made for kids, and that's just being turned out like slop. There is no good creativity going into mainstream animated features anymore. It's really shocking and it's saddening. I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of people are looking to video game adaptations now, because stuff like Super Mario Brothers and Sonic have shown that you can do them well and they can make good money. So like, let's just now animate video games and everything will be great. Well, here's the thing is that's the same thing as trying to adapt the comics. It can work really well, but if a comic book movie flops, it's a major flop, and then immediately all this bad will gets thrown at you. I don't think that animating video games is necessarily the way to go for creating animated features in Hollywood. They need to be bold, they need to be daring, and they need to keep the budgets down, for crying out loud. Indie studios, man, should do it, and we've seen from Murder Drones that they can create Hollywood-level quality on a 10th, maybe even a 100th of a fraction of what Hollywood spends on their shows, especially when we see that Arcane actually broke the budget. And I know that a lot of people love Arcane and Arcane Season 2, but when the budget is $100 million for a show that could have been produced on $25 million or maybe a little bit more, oh boy, yeah, there's no way that they're recuperating those losses. And because so many people focus on the numbers, as the bean counters are there with their abacuses and like, okay, click, 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 click. Yes, this is how much money we've made. Oh no, this is how much money we've lost. We cannot sustain this anymore. People just do not like animated features unless we continue to make sequels and prequels of these animated features that in the past have made us $1 billion. Unless we're working on that, we don't need it anymore. Sure, for all of those older folk and those weirdos who like the old cartoons, yeah, we'll make sure that those are available behind a paywall, but we won't do anything else with that stuff unless we feel like we might absolutely make buco bucks with it. And that mentality does not engender great storytelling, it does not foster creativity, and it truly limits their capability of reaching out to more people and creating lucrative shows. And one of the things that I intend to get into more in a future video, looking at Western storytelling and animation versus, for instance, the Japanese industry, where they figured out, you know what, it's not just the shows that bring in the money, it's the merchandise. It's that fan interaction, fostering that goodwill. For some reason, big Hollywood studios and smaller studios have largely forgotten that and are not capitalizing on what their animated properties could potentially come, which is a big source for toys, for games, for memorabilia, clothing, and all of that. Nah, we're not going to invest in that stuff. And that's because, again, people are looking for veins of gold when there's silver right in front of them. Sure, we would like to make billions of dollars, but you can sustain a business. You can sustain a storytelling endeavor on the silver, on the hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars. And so, as Hollywood continues to chase whales, this is why animation will overall suffer. And yes, as some people have pointed out, Warner Brothers has done more to degrade animation as a whole than Disney. We just looked at Disney because Disney is supposed to be the king of animation, and they've clearly dropped the crown, and the crown is now all bent and tarnished. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers is, for tax purposes, just destroying their back catalog. Sure, it's all still there, but it's behind a paywall, and behind a paywall that most people don't want to pay for, because Warner Brothers has just been so horribly mismanaged, especially when it comes to their animated creations. So in light of all that, it's little wonder why people then turn their attention on over to indie animation, because these independent creators are doing incredible things that Hollywood has said this shouldn't be possible. Luke and Kevin over at Glitch Productions said that they even got called up by Hollywood executives demanding to know how these guys are doing it. Because this is supposed to be impossible. You can't create a quality show on just a few $100,000. That's impossible. And on top of that, they're also like, how are you reaching teens and 20-year-olds and young 30-year-olds without chick flick stuff? That's supposed to be impossible. That's the black hole of advertising. These people don't have any money. They're stupid. They're living in their parents' houses. They don't have any cash. How are you getting them to spend money on your merchandise? And Luke and Kevin are like, maybe it's because these people actually do have jobs. They do have a life. They want to watch things that speak to them. And if you make it, they will come. Sure, again, Glitch Productions is not rolling in buco amounts of bucks, nowhere near the $550 million profits of Disney from the previous year, not even close. And yet, the love for Glitch Productions is there. The love for Murder Drones and for the Amazing Digital Circus, and the now hype for Knights of Guinevere, and people are still like, ooh, what are we going to get when we finally get the Gaslight District, something we've been waiting years for. And on top of that, Lackadaisy continues to have a very loyal fan base. Hell of a Boss just wrapped up really strong with its second season, still going well with millions and millions of views, and you now have new kids on the block as well who are making a big splash. Sure, loads of other independent creators don't get this far. For every success story, there's at least 100, if not 1,000 failures. But that's okay. It's honestly okay. Because the people who managed to make it have done a great job. And here's something that I want to say to all you other independent creators out there. Your work is not in vain. Because you have explored your craft. You have tried. That's better than so many other people out there. Failure is failure, but failure is a chance to learn, to pick yourself up again, and try it again, or try something new. So let's start talking about what indie animation has been up to. And of course, the big kids on the block are coming from Glitch Productions, which are the Amazing Digital Circus, and Murder Drones. The Amazing Digital Circus has picked up around 400 million new views for all of their episodes this year alone. And a conservative guess for the revenue per million views is about $4,000 per million views. Multiply 4,000 by 400 and you get $1.6 million. And that is huge! That is really good! And based off of what Glitch as well has revealed about how they budget out their shows, with 20% of the budget coming from the revenue from the views alone, and then 80% coming from the sales of merch, you're looking at millions of dollars being brought in that is then being reinvested. And this goes to show in the great quality that Murder Drones had at its end. It was gorgeous to look at. I mean, sure, there's a lot to be said about how episode 8 of Murder Drones definitely left a lot of threads dangling and was not the strongest conclusion that the show could have had, but it was gorgeous, and it shows that it still had a 50% audience retention rate, which is right on there, on par with the best that Hollywood can manage with their shows, with their best shows. That's really, really good. And of course, the Amazing Digital Circus has only been getting even better and badder, so much so that Netflix offered the golden deal to Glitch, saying, we want you guys to be on Netflix because we need your views, we need your eyeballs, we need people spending money on our service, so that way they will come and watch you guys here. But not only that, guess what? For a change, Netflix has no control over a show that they are premiering on their platform. Glitch Productions is free. Not only do they get to show everything first on YouTube before it premieres on Netflix, but on top of that, there is no creative input from Netflix at all. This is a golden deal, and it has kicked the doors open. It has set a new precedent that for other very powerful, popular shows, they might have the chance to also negotiate this sweetheart deal that will allow them to get loads of more money to put into their production and allow them to crank out just great quality stories. Then over here on the other side, we've gotten Has Been Hotel, which premiered on Amazon. And despite the attempted smear campaign from other content creators and some of the middling reviews for the show, it did well. Amazon saw a major boost to their platform thanks to Has Been Hotel. And it was well animated. This is Visipop at her absolute best. So she was doing really stinking well. And again, this shows that anyone can make it. Granted, yet the stars have to align, but the stars can indeed align. And so you have these two far more mature properties, or I should say three, when we look at The Amazing Digital Circus, Murder Drones, and Has Been Hotel, doing very well. Let's also add to that Hell of a Boss, which even though Hell of a Boss has lost about 70% of its original viewership, it's still getting millions and millions of views, allowing it to become sustainable, which is very important. And although Lackadaisy was silent during 2024, there was the big announcement that Glitch Productions decided to work with Iron Circus and Tracy Butler directly, allowing them to sell their merch through Glitch, allowing them to merge their respective fan bases and provide more revenue to produce Lackadaisy, alleviating a lot of stress from Tracy and her team so that way they can make quality work. As beautiful as the pilot episode was for Lackadaisy, there's still some little rough points here and there, but now for the promotional material that we've been getting, it's been even better. And this is thanks to the alliance between independent creators. And then on top of that, let me give a shout out to some of the little shows that have popped up that I've really enjoyed. Dungeon Flippers showed up on the scene with a great pilot episode and managed to meet its crowdfunding goal for a second episode. That's really, really awesome. And then we've got Art of the Murder, which had a phenomenal debut, and again showed off the power of 2D animation, and it was a great tribute to fans and to fan art and to just fun creative storytelling. And while it might not be as popular as some of the other big shows, it has made an impact, and I'm really hoping that we get the next episodes. And so coming back to one of my initial questions, what does this mean for us novice authors, for us independent creators? What does this mean for us? This means that we are entering kind of a Wild West stage of creation, where indie animation, indie storytelling has a chance to compete with Hollywood. Again, they're not rolling around in billions of dollars like the big production studios are. And indie production hasn't yet taken away a sizable chunk of viewership from Hollywood, but it is competing. It has become viable. It has become sustainable. And on top of that, it's been recognized by big platforms such as Netflix or Amazon. This is big, and it shows again in just the hundreds of millions of views, which have then been transported on over to just countless fantastic works of fan art, all of the fan fiction, and a lot of it actually very respectful fan fiction that has gone out there. All of these people who have actually then recommended shows to their friends and to their family. I have gotten my family introduced to Murder Drones and to The Amazing Digital Circus, and it's even passed on to other people. I have met absolute strangers, so I've had the opportunity to suggest these shows to, and then they've gone on to watch it. It's been awesome. And you don't see that happening so much anymore with big Hollywood productions. I can't remember the last time really that I've told someone they absolutely need to go see the newest DC or Warner Brothers movie. And honestly, indie animation is kind of creeping on into there. It's become the next big thing because people realize, oh, you might not have heard about this, so let me share it with you. And that is something that Hollywood is losing right now. So the doors are open for people to come on in and to compete. But this is where things begin to get messy and tricky. Because I've talked a lot about, again, the numbers, the number of views, the amount of money, and everything that goes into that. It costs money and a significant amount of time to create anything, whether it be to create a book, or to create an animated show, or a live action show, or your own independent animated movie, or your own independent live action movie. There is a significant cost that goes into this, and that's a cost that not everyone is able to meet. So already this will predetermine in many cases what people are able to do. And so unfortunately that already kind of sweeps the table of a lot of people. However, for those people who feel kind of left behind and broken, this is why I say do not feel like you've been defeated. Failure is something that so many of us will face time and time again. But one of the beauties about the independent scene is that you can still deliver your own independent stories, your own artwork, little comics, even little animatics, or if you manage to get very impressive with your craft and manage to network and everything and put together maybe even like a little 30-second to 1-minute animated featurette with some friends, or even manage to get a good voice actor to help you out with this, those things are still well received by other people. You will be recognized, you will be praised for your work, and you will have an outlet to tell your story. I think as independent creators, we need to better understand what success is. True, Glitch Productions and over at Spindlehorse, like, they are doing phenomenally. That is obviously success. But again, those are for the people for whom the stars have aligned. What about for the rest of us who are still waiting for our big break and who might never get it? What does success look like for us? This comes back around to the mantra that I've repeated many times, that you need your stories. Your stories need you, and the world needs your stories. I personally believe that so long as you are able to engage in your craft productively, to create a story or an end product that you really love, that's fulfillment already. Now, of course, the wish is that we will one day be able to sustain ourselves off of doing this thing that we absolutely love. But for others, that might never be the case. But that doesn't mean that you should not give up on your dream. And the reason why is because the world needs your stories. Because you never know when you might get your big break. You never know whom you might inspire along the way. You never know who might give you your big break. I look to Liam Vickers of Murder Drones fame. This guy has been in the industry for years, doing his own thing. Of course, he made his own channel, which garnered quite a few views, and yet every time he tried to make his own show or pitch it to someone else, he got slapped down and destroyed again and again and again and again until someone gave him his big break, which was Glitch Productions. Yes, true, he had already made a following, he had already shown off his skill, but he had failed many times leading up until that point. For us independent creators, we need to reevaluate what truly is victory for us, what is success, and aim for it. And again, remember that you need your stories need you, and the world needs your stories. And never give up. Your stories might take on a different form than what you had always imagined and dreamed they could be, but there is always the chance that if you keep pressing forward, that you will have the chance to fully realize that dream that is in your heart and in your mind. And that is a possibility that is growing day by day by day as independent animation and independent storytelling become far more viable. Now, I can't predict exactly what the world is going to look like when we get to the 2030s, but my personal belief is this, that by the time that we hit 2030, there will be enough independent creators who have figured out that special sauce that we will get to see independent studios truly competing against Hollywood for real, and not just for the hundreds of thousands of millions, but by this point for the tens of millions, maybe even for hundreds of millions. So that might be a little bit of a stretch, but they will truly be competing. And as they succeed, they pave the way forward for other people to move along. Independent creators are going to keep getting smarter, better connected, more skilled as they go forward. And as Hollywood is taking the axe to all of these other creators as they are destroying their own animated studios, I mean, just look at what Disney has done. You then have someone like Dana Terrace and her team who then jump ship from the House of Mouse and head on over to Glitch to then introduce us Knights of Guinevere. Now, granted, this show might completely fall flat on its face when it premieres, but Dana Terrace has already shown us with the Owl House that she is very skilled. She's a good storyteller. Now, let's see what happens when she's allowed to truly be creative like she's always wanted to be and is given the resources to succeed. And here's the thing is that as so much talent is being pruned away from Hollywood and these people are kind of left in the wind, this is a prime time for independent creators to try to reach out to those people who have been fired and let go and see about networking, coming together, pooling resources and information, talents and drive. And I think we're going to see a whole lot more of people banding together and creating their own little groups and moving forward. This is a time of revolution. This is a Wild West scenario. It's going to be wild. There's going to be a whole lot more failure along the way. There's going to be some bombastic clashes. There's going to be some insane stories and legends. And I believe that in the next 5 years, we will see a very definite transformation where, again, independent storytelling will be a viable option to go head to head with the big boys and do well and kick the doors even wider open for more people to be creative and seek a chance at success. That is what I currently am seeing. So that being said, this has been my look back at the year 2024, and 2025 is already introducing us to loads of new possibilities. Oh boy, I am very excited for this new year, and I hope that you are as well. And I hope that this video has been informative and it leaves you something to chew on, and I'm looking very forward to what your comments and thoughts are in the comments below. And if you'd like to support the work that I do here, then please check out the books that I myself have published. I'm an independent author. I do all my own stuff to the best of my ability. I need your support in order to succeed. I don't get very far without you. So I would love it if you would check out the books that I myself have written. Links for all of them are in the description below. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.
Well, I'm gonna go drink water. It's been a while since I've done that.